So I will be working through the Lord willing both practice tests in this video. Here we have our focus at 0, comma, -7/4. So if I have my axes in black, my focus is somewhere here, and my directrix is at x equals 5/3. And so x equals 5/3 is a vertical line, right? So that means my directrix is there. Okay. And knowing that the vertex is in between the focus and the directrix, my vertex V must therefore be at 5/6, comma, -7/4. The reason is because this is 0, this is 5/3, and so the vertex has to be in between there. And so that's going to be 5/3 divided by 2, which is 5/6. Okay? And so I'm going to have a horizontal parabola, right? Because my directrix is vertical. And so that means I have to use the second equation, which is y minus k squared. So my equation is going to be y minus k, and k is -7/4. So I have y minus -7/4 squared equals 4p. What is p? P is going to be 5/6 because p is the distance from the focus to the vertex, right? And so p is going to actually be -5/6. And we know it's negative because the parabola is pointing left. So I have 4 times -5/6, x minus h, which is x minus 5/6. And simplify that a little bit. Although it's not strictly necessary. Okay, check my answer. So important thing to note is that p is negative, right? It's negative because p is negative whenever the parabola points left or points down. Okay, let's do the next one. So here my vertex is at -2, 4, which is here. And my focus is at -2, 7/2. And 7/2 is about 3.5, right? So we know that's below the vertex. And so and the focus, let me label it. My focus is there, it's -2, 4. My vertex is there, and my focus is going to be below it at -2, 7/2. And so that means the parabola is going to be pointing downwards, right? Because the parabola always points from the vertex towards the focus, right? And so I have a vertical parabola, which means I need to use the equation with the x squared. So I'm going to have x minus h. H is -2. That's going to be x plus 2 squared equals 4p. What is P here? P is the distance from the vertex to the focus, and that's going downwards, so we know P is negative in this case. And so P will be 7 over 2 minus 4. Okay, P equals 7 over 2 minus 4, which is negative half. So I'm going to have 4 times negative half and y minus k, where k is the y coordinate of the vertex. And so that is y minus 4. And after simplifying, this is what I get. Part C, my vertex is at 3, negative 1, and my directrix is a vertical line at x equals 7 halves. 7 half is 3.5, so that's to the right of the vertex. Okay. And so if the directrix is there, that means the focus has to be here, which means that the parabola goes this way. And so what does that tell us about P? It tells us that P is going to be negative. So P is the distance from the vertex to the focus, but it's also the distance between the directrix and the vertex, right? Because the vertex has to be right in between the focus and the directrix. So that tells us that P is once again going to be 1 half, or sorry, negative 1 half. P is equal to negative 1 half because the parabola points leftwards. I get negative 1 half because that's 7 halves minus 3. So I'm going to have the horizontal equation. So that's y minus k, y plus 1 squared equals 4p times x minus h. So that's x minus 3, which leaves that as my final answer. Next question. Focus is at 4, negative 2. And my directrix is at y equals 5. So if here's my focus, then that means my vertex must be in the middle there. And so it has to share the same x-coordinate, but what would the y-coordinate be? The y-coordinate is going to be the average of 5 and negative 2. And so that's 3 half, right? Because the vertex is equidistant between the focus and the directrix, and the average of 5 and negative 2 is 3 halves. All right? And then what is this distance p? P is going to be equal to negative 2 minus 3 halves, which is negative 7 over 2. Right, it's negative because the parabola is pointing downwards. And so I'm going to have x minus h, x minus 4, right? X minus h squared equals 4 times p. I'll just simplify that right now. 4 times p is negative 14. Y minus k, y minus 3 halves. Okay, let me check all my answers. All right, continue. Find the standard form of the equation of the ellipse. So my vertices are at 2, -1, and 2, 9. And I have a minor axis of length 6. So let me first figure out my center. My center is going to be at, let's say C. My center is going to be at 2, 4. And then I know A is equal to 5. So let me write that down. A equals 5 because that's the distance, that's the semi-major axis. It's the distance from 2, 4 to 2, 9. And then I have a minor axis of length 6. So I know my semi-minor axis is 3. So that tells me that B equals 3. So my equation is going to be x minus h, which is 2, squared over what is the x radius? It's going to be 3, so I have 3 squared, plus y minus 4 squared over my y radius, which is 5, so I have 25, equals 1. So make sure you're not getting the minor axis confused with semi-minor. Make sure you're not getting major confused with semi-major. Make sure you know the difference. Next question. Given a center and a vertex, um, so make sure you're assuming, I think for this question, you have to assume that the vertex is at the end of the major axis. So I have a center at -3, 2, and a vertex at 1, 2. A center and a vertex. And eccentricity, if I look at my formula, or let me first say, if I have the center there and a vertex here, then that means I have A equals 4, right? Because the distance from the center to the vertex is the semi-major, which is A. And I'm also going to figure out that C is equal to 3 because the eccentricity, E, is equal to C over A. And so if A is 4, that means C is equal to 3. And now, from here, I can use the formula to figure out what B is. So B squared equals A squared minus C squared. And so that tells me that B squared is equal to 7. And so my y radius is going to be √7 for the ellipse. This all tells me that my equation is x minus h, which is -3, so x plus 3 squared, over x radius, which is 4, so 4 squared, plus y minus k, over my y radius, just 7, √7. Right, let's do the next one. So here I'm given two vertices and two foci. Um, I'm not even going to draw it out here. So I know that the vertices are going to be at the end of the major axis because the foci are also along that horizontal line. It's the x-axis. And so that tells me that my semi-major axis is root 15 and c should equal 3 because c is the distance from the center to the foci. And so therefore b squared equals a squared, b squared equals a squared minus c squared. So b squared is 15, 15 minus 9, which is 6. Okay. Now my center is at 0, 0, right? So hk is 0, 0. So I'll have x squared over my x radius is going to be root 15 because those are the vertices along the x-axis. So it'll be x squared over 15 plus y squared over the y radius squared. And so that's going to be 6 equals 1. Good. The next one. So in this case, the major axis has length 5, so the semi-major must be 5 over 2. The foci are at 0 plus or minus 3 over 2. So that means c is equal to 3 over 2. And that lies along the y-axis, right? What's next? B squared equals a squared minus c squared. So that is 25 over 4 minus 9 over 4, which is just 4. Um, and so, once again, my center is at 0, 0, right? So that'll be x squared. What is my x radius? Well, my x radius should be the semi-minor axis because the major axis is in the y direction. And so that means my semi-minor axis or my x radius will be b equals 2. So I should have 4 here plus y squared over a squared, which is 25 over 4. That should be all. Now to hyperbolus. Here my vertices are at 1, negative 2, and 1, 4. So that's here and here. So let's figure out where my center is. My center is going to be at 1, comma 1. Um, and this is a vertical hyperbola, right? So my a value is equal to 3 because that's the distance from the center to the vertices. And then I know that this is a vertical hyperbola. And so the slopes of the asymptotes should correspond to a over b. So a over b equals 3, which means that b equals 1. Now I can directly use my formula. This is a vertical hyperbola, so the y must come first. Y minus 1 squared over a squared, which is 9, minus x minus 1 squared over b squared. Good. Next, my foci are at negative 4, 1 and 6, 1. So that tells me that my center here is going to be at 1, 1. And I have a horizontal hyperbola. So my center is at 1, 1. And C is going to equal 5. That's the distance from the center to the foci. And I also know this is a horizontal hyperbola, so the asymptotes should correspond to b over a. So I know b over a equals 3 over 4. All right. How do I find b over a? Well, I'll have to use the relationship a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And so that means a squared plus b squared must be 25. But if you know that b over a equals 3 over 4, and a squared plus b squared equals 25, it's fairly easy to just conclude that b equals 3 and a equals 4, because you know those Pythagorean triples. And so I can conclude that my standard form should be x minus 1 squared over a squared, which is 16, minus y minus 1 squared over b squared, which is 9, equals 1. Next, given vertices and foci now. So my vertices are at negative 5 over 2, 4, somewhere here. My foci are at negative 4, 4, and 2, 4. Should look something like that. Where's my center? My center is at the midpoint of the foci. So that should just be negative 1, 4. And then I know the distance to the vertices is going to be 3 over 2. And the distance to the foci is going to be 3. So it tells me that b squared, which is c squared minus a squared here, or hyperbola, will be equal to 9 minus 9 over 4, which is 27 over 4. And so that means that since I have a horizontal hyperbola, I should have x minus h first. So x plus 1 squared over a squared, which is 9 over 4, minus y minus 4 squared over b squared, which is 27 over 4. Let's do the next one. Looks like I have a vertical hyperbola here. So 2 1/3, 2 7/3, to negative 2 over 3 to 10 over 3. Um, where's my center? I screwed up the drawing, didn't I? My center is going to be at 2 comma 4 thirds. That's the average of 1/3 and 7/3. Then A is equal to 7/3 minus 4/3, which is 1. And C is equal to 10/3 minus 4/3, which is 2. So it tells me that B squared equals C squared minus A squared, which is 3. So this is a vertical hyperbola. So I have y minus 4/3 squared over A squared minus x minus 2 squared over B squared. Let's check this really quick. Okay, so in these questions, you have to first convert to standard form by completing the square. Then you have to identify the conic. Then you have to find the various things for the different conics. And then you have to make a simple sketch of the graph. No labels required. Let's do the first one. This looks like a parabola, right? Let's complete the square by moving things to different sides. Let's move the y to the left side and x to the other side. And to complete the square here, let's first divide by 2. Then we can add 4 to both sides. So this becomes y minus 2 squared equals negative 3 over 2. And I have to factor out that negative 3 over 2, right? So it's negative 3 over 2 times x plus 2. Okay, because negative 3 divided by negative 3 over 2 is positive 2. All right, if I wanted to get it even more into standard form, I could get p out here, and that would be negative 3 over 8 x plus 2. All right, so that's standard form. So I'll box that. It's obviously a parabola, horizontal, facing left. So let's find the vertex, focus, and directrix. Vertex will just be negative 2 comma 2. And I know p is negative 3 over 8, right? And so that means the focus should be going left because this is horizontal. So it should be negative 3 over 8, and I go left of negative 2. And so that would be negative 19 over 8 comma 2. All right, I'm just going negative 2 minus 3/8 equals negative 19 over 8. That's all I did there. And then the directrix will be x equals, and I'm going to go 3 over 8 in the other direction now. So it'll be 16, negative 16 over 8 plus 3 over 8, which is negative 13 over 8. Okay. And you must have the x if you want points. All right, let's make a quick sketch of this. So my vertex is at negative 2, 2. My focus is to the left, so I know that this parabola opens left. And that's really all you need for the sketch. Your sketch is fine as long as your parabola is opening in the right direction and the vertex is generally in the right quadrant as well. Next one. Looks like we have a hyperbola here. Let's group together the variables. So let me also check my answer to the previous one. Right. 4x squared minus 16x minus 9y squared minus 18y equals 29. Let's complete the square now. So I'll first factor out of 4 here. That leaves me with x squared minus 4x. I'll add 4 to complete the square. Minus 9. When I factor that to y squared plus 2y, then a plus 1 here, right? Equals 29 plus 16 minus 9. So this becomes 4 times x minus 2 squared minus 9y plus 1 squared equals 29 plus 16 minus 9 is 36. So this in standard form is going to be that. And this is a hyperbola. All right, so the center is at 2, negative 1. My vertices, let me write down the parameters first. So a equals 3 and b equals 2, right? So that means c is equal to a squared plus b squared square root, which is root 13. Vertices are going to be a left and right of the center because this is a horizontal hyperbola. So I will have 5, negative 1, and negative 1, negative 1. My foci are going to be c right and left. That's 2 plus or minus root 13, negative 1. And then what else do I need? I need asymptotes. That will be y equals k plus or minus, this is horizontal, so it should be b over a, 2/3 x minus h. I think that's all that I need. All right, so a quick sketch. Let's find my vertices. I'm at 5, negative 1, and negative 1, negative 1. Um, so my hyperbola should look like that. Hmm. Check my answer with Google Gemini. Okay, next, looks like we have an ellipse here. I feel like these are the same numbers. Okay, that's my standard form. So this is an ellipse with center at 1, -2, and I should have vertices. So my x radius is 2, so my vertices on the x side are going to be 3, -2, so that's 2 to the right, and 2 to the left. My y radius is 3, so I'm going to go 3 up and 3 down. For my foci, what is c? C squared is a squared minus b squared. And so a is 3 and b is 4, right? So a squared is 9 and b squared is 5. So c is equal to √5. C equals c squared equals 9 minus 4, so c equals √5. Okay, so we can use that information. So that means my foci um, are going to be at 1 comma -2 plus or minus √5. I know it has to be up and down because the foci are going to be always along the major axis, right? And in this case, the major axis is in the y direction. So the foci are going to be up and down of the center. Right? Do I need eccentricity? Nope. Okay, so just to plot this, my vertices are at 3, -2, -1, -2, 1, 1, and 1, -5. This is my last one. No, second to last. Probably going to do the other test another day. Another ellipse. These are not nice numbers, are they? So 3 squared plus 12x minus 5y squared minus 30y. There's plus 3x squared plus 12x plus 5y squared minus 30y equals -42. Let's factor. All right, there's standard form. This is a horizontal ellipse, right? So the major axis will be in the horizontal direction. So center is at -2, 3. My vertices are going to be, so my x radius is √5. My y radius is √3. My foci, so a squared equals 5 and b squared equals 3. So that means c squared equals 2, which means c equals √2. And so my foci will be at -2 plus or minus √2, comma 3. And the foci are going to be left and right of the center because the major axis is horizontal. Okay. Um, -2 plus or minus √5, comma 3. That should be something like this. -2 √3 minus √3 should be somewhere here. It should be there. So that's my ellipse. Continuing, last one, the hyperbola, isn't it? So let's group the variables. Complete the square. So this is a vertical hyperbola because the y comes first. My center will be at 3, -2. And here a equals 4 and b equals 2, right? So that means c is equal to square root 20, which is 2√5. And so my, so tired. Okay. My, what am I looking for? My vertices, my vertices should be up and down because it's vertical. So my vertices are going to be 4 up and down the center. So that's 7, -2, and -1, -2. And then my foci shall be 2√5. No, this is totally wrong. My my vertices are up and down, so I should be changing the y coordinate. 3, 2, and 3, -6. My foci should be at 3, -2 plus or minus 2√5. My asymptotes should be at y equals k plus or minus a over b x minus h. So those are my answers there. Hyperbola, ellipse, ellipse. And to sketch the graph, my vertices are at 3, 2, and 3, -6. So it should look like this. It's more steep because the asymptotes are so steep. Something like that. Let me check my answers for these, because I did not do that previously. My gosh. Good thing I checked because this is totally wrong, isn't it? I mixed up X and Y. Hopefully you didn't write that down. So X is -2, right? H is -2, and Y is 3, which means that the vertices should be at -2, 7 and -2, -1. It's a very foolish mistake. -2, 3 plus or minus 2 root 5. And y equals 3 plus or minus a over b x minus h. So that should be correct. My vertices are at -2, 7, and -2, -1. Actually, it should look something like that. This looks correct. Okay, sorry about that mistake, and hope this was of some help.